Riddle, or Riddle as we must call him, is one of a kind. Like, this man just speaks his mind, and he doesn't even care, even when people come up to him and probably say, would you please stop speaking your mind? I mean, so far he's pissed off Brock Lesnar, so far he's pissed off Bill Goldberg, apparently he pissed off Seth Rollins, and I think the way he reacts is just to go, bro, I don't even care, where's my skateboard? Not skateboard scooter. I can see why WWE doesn't like that, but I don't have to care about it because I'm not in WWE, and if recent murmurings are true, it just happened again. Why? Here's why. So I will just give you the quote in full before we begin so you can make your own mind up. But when, yes, Riddle was speaking to Bleacher Report, he said, when talking about Roman Reigns, when he's saying, acknowledge me, or I move the needle, no, you don't. You're related to The Rock. Shut up. Like, I'm not impressed. I can beat you up in a real fight like as a child, so shut your mouth. You're not moving needles. I'm the real stallion. RK Bro is moving the merch. We're moving the needle, and that's it. I don't want to say too much. It's like, Riddle, you've already gone way too far as it is. I'm not trying to get in trouble. Hey, hats off to him. He's amazing at what he does. I do like what he does, but at the same time, it's like, get off your high horse. You're in that spot for a reason. You're not a bro. You're second generation, whereas I am first generation. I mean, that is amazing, right? And when I first heard it, I presumed, okay, I guess down the line at some point, we're going to do Roman Reigns versus Riddle. And look, the draft's around the corner. Maybe one of them's going to go to SmackDown or one of them's going to go to Raw. And while that doesn't really make any sense, at the moment on Monday nights, we have a storyline where a guy just chills out in a park. So don't tell me WWE couldn't make this work. So that's why I was never going to make this video, especially when Riddle said, I can beat you up. I'm like, oh man, it's just fighting talk. But then I was listening to the latest episode of Wrestling Observer Radio, where Uncle Dave Meltzer said, nope, WWF was pretty pissed off about that, and now there's more heat on Riddle. I was like, man, this guy, he is one of a kind, but he ain't RVD. There's so much good to it as well, especially given the fact that when you do go through it, it sounds like Riddle doesn't really realize that the whole acknowledge me thing is part of the head of the table character and not something that Roman Reigns is saying. And then he takes shots at The Rock, kind of. Sheesh. And you know they had to wind some people up because you don't mess with Dwayne Johnson. Mate, Dwayne Johnson is a super duper mega star. You just leave him. And if the phone rings, you've got a special phone at the bat phone for him. You go, Rock, what do you want? We'll give it to you. I mean, you've got to imagine that is forbidden territory, but it's out there now, and it will continue to be out there because of arseholes like me that continue to talk about it. I know I should be ashamed of myself. My big takeaway from it, though, is that a random quote from a quote-unquote real interview potentially got me more interested in a feud that doesn't exist than maybe WWE would actually be able to execute if they did bring it to TV. I do think this ties into how WWE is handling stories at the moment, but I also understand it's kind of hard to be too critical at the moment when you get to the business numbers and the metrics, because they're making more money than ever, and actually when you look at the ratings, even though they're not as hot as they once were when you compare them to themselves, when you compare them to everything else on television right now, well, they're usually right up there in terms of most watched on Mondays and Fridays, so they are doing very, very well. But let's look at the Bobby Lashley situation on Raw to prove my point. We had so little idea what we were going to do after Bobby Lashley versus Goldberg that we got to that Raw and everyone stuck their hands in their pockets like, well, I suppose we could put him in a tag team with MVP, because what else are we going to do? Now, the upside to this is that we can now go in many directions. The one that we seem to have picked being Randy Orton, but then you get another problem straight away, because if Randy Orton does start competing for the WWE World Championship, by proxy we go, well, who the flub cares about the tag team title? Because the tag team champion doesn't really care, and therefore, here comes energy, hits me in the face, I don't care either. This is then exactly the same when it comes to someone else who could go into a feud with Bobby Lashley, which is Damian Priest. Now, credit where credit is due. WWE has done a tremendous job with Mr. Priest over the last couple of weeks, but if he then goes after the WWE title, all of a sudden we have the same issue with the United States Championship. And given that Sheamus won that at WrestleMania and basically didn't get one program for 4 months, I mean, he had all those fights with Humberto Carrillo that I think totaled 4,791. But even then, was that title on the line? I couldn't be able to tell you because it was just so wishy-washy. So if WWE did start sprinkling these real-life situations into the product, I actually think that would be a cool way to go. And don't tell me that it hasn't been able to work before, because it has. Edge, Matt Hardy, and Lita. John Cena and The Rock when they basically hated each other. John Cena and CM Punk. Kane and The Undertaker. Well, no, not that last one. Sorry, I got a bit carried away there. Unless one of those schmucks did kill their parents, and then Kane grabbed The Undertaker and he chokeslammed him into Mum and Dad's grave. And then there was Katie Vick. Let's hope that none of it's true, because if it is and we all kept watching, we are disgusting people. And I get as well that the things that we've just mentioned were actual things that happened outside the wrestling bubble and then we just dragged them into it. But why can't we be inspired by that every now and then? I'm not saying you do this every single week, I'm saying a couple of times a year max, and just try and spruce up a couple of stories so they feel a little bit different. Once more, did I want to see Riddle versus Roman Reigns before this? Not massively. Do I now? You bet your ass. Also, if we tie into this whole play to your strengths thing, Riddle is so good at it. Like after he said, Brock Lesnar, come out of retirement, I want to beat you up and then retire you for good. I was like, well, that sounds fantastic. And then we learned that Brock Lesnar, when he was backstage, went and found Riddle and said, keep my name out of your mouth. And also, if you think we're ever going to have a match, you're completely wrong. I'm not going to do it. You then get round 2 with Goldberg, where Riddle said, I don't think you're a very good wrestler, and I actually think you suck. So again, they were backstage, Bill Goldberg at an event found Riddle, and he's like, what are you doing, you absolute moron? And because Riddle is so laid back, he's like, bro, I don't even care. And somehow he gets away with it. So straight away, I'm like, Vince McMahon, would you book this shit? I want to see it. And sure, you'd have to show this footage to the live crowd and give them context, because the casual fan isn't going to be into this stuff, but that is down to the company and that is down to WWE. And if nothing else, it's far better than Gage, Goldberg's son, just jumping onto the back of Bobby Lashley as an angle. I mean, why the flub did he do that to begin with? Why would you jump on the back of Bobby Lashley even if he was beating up your dad? That was really silly. It clearly isn't going to affect Riddle because we got to Raw and he was doing his RK Bro stuff anyway and he's still over like Rover, so that's a rarity. And he doesn't seem like he's going to stop this either. He has been told, rumor, apparently who the hell knows, don't do it anymore, and he does it anyway. So we've got something here, light fire under it. And the reason he is able to do that is because of the character. Like, I'm sure we push it a lot and I'm sure he's given some extra silly things to say, but if you don't think that Matt Riddle is kind of like this behind the scenes and backstage, well, you really haven't been paying attention. And whether he meant to do it or not, he actually did the thing that the head of the table, Roman Reigns, we love you, hates more than anything, which is that he didn't acknowledge him. And the only other people that haven't acknowledged Roman Reigns are Edge, Daniel Bryan, Drew McIntyre, people like that. But they did it within the story, and now Riddle has taken it outside and done it in the real world. I cannot believe we're not capitalizing on this. It does seem a little bit unfair when it comes to the whole moving the needle thing, because I do think Roman's made a difference, but maybe the counterpoint to that it's not just him on his own, it is absolutely a team effort, and you'd have to put RK Bro in there. They're probably one of the most popular things in the company. And to be honest, the more I've talked about this, the more I've started to go, maybe Riddle actually doesn't know what pro wrestling is and thinks Roman Reigns was speaking the truth. But you see what's happened here by complete accident? I'm now working myself into a shoot, and as we've already laid out, when we do that and we do it well, it's some of the best wrestling you could hope for. And don't go too far, of course. As already said, you keep this very, very rare, once, twice a year max. And maybe don't do it like the whole Charlotte Flair and Nia Jax thing, because when it comes to that match on Raw, there are some insiders who are now saying that was the plan. They were trying to make you think, oh my gosh, they're having a real fight. And fair play to them if that is accurate. I appreciate the effort. But in terms of someone that was sat on their couch watching an entertainment program, please never ever do that again, because it was the most awkward thing I've ever seen in my life. It was basically like watching Curb Your Enthusiasm. I did enjoy it from a geek point of view, but again, it comes down to the whole idea of 2 + 2 = fish. You kind of understand what's going on, but when you get to that end result, you're like, wait, that's never going to connect the dots. How do we even get here? I think I want to go home. So basically, it was like a crazy science experiment, and yes, I am going to watch it at least 10 more times this week. But there you go, Riddle apparently got his wrist slapped, but it's the 3rd time, probably more. I probably forgot other ones, probably 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th. And if he's going to continue to do it, again, someone creative go, this guy comes up with a lot of stuff that gets a lot of people riled up. Isn't that what we're trying to achieve on Raw and SmackDown and NXT and all of that? Yes, it is. So I'm just going to keep my fingers crossed and hope that being pissed off with him actually helps. I mean, that's never happened in the history of WWE, but I'm a daydream believer, so I will continue to believe. Now, please do leave a comment below and let me know, what do you want from this kind of stuff? Do you think it would be good? Do you think it would be too convoluted? Do you think most fans in the arena would be like, I have no idea what's going on? These are all appropriate answers, and I want to know. Then like the video, share the video, and subscribe. Head on over to whatculture.com, where we'll keep you up to date with anything Riddle says, because he's absolute gold mine. Then make sure you come say hello on social media, and if you'd like to watch another video, take your finger and give it a click. My name's Simon What Culture. Thank you very much for watching the Why series as always, and I just love it. Imagine I said something like that now. Imagine I went, I don't think Roman Reigns is very good. I don't think Roman Reigns can move the needle. Nobody would care. But And that's because I'm just a bored a-hole on the internet shouting out my opinions. Riddle is in the same company, and he just said it like it was nothing. And it was pretty good. It's a pretty good promo when you break it right down. Let's do this, WWE, and we'll make a video in a year's time when either you haven't done it at all, or maybe Riddle is in more trouble still. Wonders never cease. Goodbye.